Okay, so I saw that new third Cloverfield movie, Cloverfield Paradox, a couple days ago on Netflix, and I was like brushing my teeth or flossing my teeth a couple days after and just thinking about movie reviews, where to go with them, what I could do with them, and I was thinking about that movie, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do a full 20, 30-minute review on it, edited and everything. Maybe I could just talk about it for 10 minutes, and then I thought I could talk about anything for 10 minutes probably. And then I came up with the idea of, let's do Just a Fan Gets 10 Minutes. What Just a Fan Gets 10 Minutes is me watching a new movie, specifically one I've never seen before, and right after, just immediately after, let's get to a 10-minute review. Now, this first one is not going to be, obviously, right after I saw the movie, because I didn't really establish what I wanted to do with it yet, but we're going to call it good. We're going to give me 10 minutes to review this Cloverfield Paradox movie, and the idea is to do it without edits, which I don't know how well that's going to work out, because if you only have 10 minutes, and you run out of things to say or you trip over your words, it might look a little wonky, but we're going to try to make it work. And for these 10-minute reviews I get to do, I'm going to say totally spoilers every single time. I mean, there's no way I could fit a non-spoiler section into a 10-minute review. So whenever you see or whenever you watch a Just a Fan Gets 10 Minutes video, don't expect me to not spoil anything. Expect me to spoil everything I can, because if anything, I'm going to need to spoil more than ever within those 10 minutes to get it done. So I apologize if you do want to watch a good 10-minute review on a movie without spoilers. That just probably won't be what these are going to be. So here I get 10 minutes, and I really need to get a timer or something. I'm going to use this electronic brick for now. It seems pretty cool for times and number stuff. And let's do... How about siren alarm? So when this siren alarm goes off, my 10 minutes for talking about Clover... I keep trying to call it Paradox Cloverfield or whatever, Poverfield, but Cloverfield Paradox. When this timer goes off in 10 minutes, my time is up. And maybe for some reviews, I'll give myself more time or I'll revisit them. It's especially with the goal of being right after I see the movie, I might not realize I have more to say. So I make the rules and I'm the judge of the rules, so we're going to make this work. But I'm going to start this 10 minutes and talk about my experience with Cloverfield Paradox. Alright, so it was pretty cool. Let me just say this. My history with Cloverfield is I enjoy the first one. I think it's fun. The one where there's the guy HUD carrying around the camera, and I guess it's New York. I haven't seen it for a little while. But I enjoy the first Cloverfield. I think it's kind of a fun survival... first-person camera movie. It has decent characters. It's actually more of a character-driven story than other stories could be, just because of what they're trying to do. So I like that one, and I never saw the second Cloverfield. I know it's apparently pretty cool and clever. I do understand the synopsis of it, where John Goodman's character has kind of an underground bunker, and he's keeping, not necessarily captive, but two or more people there for their own safety. And I like that concept a lot. It's really cool to think about a guy who seems like he's kind of crazy and keeping people here against their will, and then realizing that, he's actually trying to keep them safe, and he's doing what he honestly thinks is in his best interest, or what's in their best interest. So I like the idea of the first Cloverfield. It's fun, it's cool. I like the idea of the second one, even if I haven't seen it. And this third one came out of nowhere to me, and I did see a review on it somewhere where someone pointed out that it also came out of nowhere to everybody else, too. There was like a Super Bowl commercial. This is what I heard from Half in the Bag. There was like a Super Bowl commercial or something, and they said, boom, Paradox, Cloverfield Paradox, right after this, and it was a big surprise. So, same thing for me. I just saw it, though, and I said, Cloverfield? Heck yeah, I'll watch that. I had some time when I was grading papers or something, so I watched it, and I liked it visually. It was really cool to see some of the things they did, and knowing how it's a Cloverfield movie and how there's always going to be more going on behind the scenes than what the viewer is seeing on screen, I could trust it pretty much the whole time to do what it needed to do. I didn't really lose faith in what was going on, even if it's one of those movies where the viewer's not really supposed to know what's going on. And on that note, I would say it's the type of movie where things happen. Weird things happen. Unexplainable things happen, even though it's a futuristic movie with a space station with people from all over the world doing amazing experiments to try to make, renewable infinite energy. That's great. That's cool. But when really, really weird things start happening, like people's arms start coming off or showing up in walls, I can totally see, and I've seen it before, is why I say this, I can totally see people saying, why don't they explain how that happened? How did that happen? What's going on here? What is this? This is just dumb. They're just doing things. I see what they're saying, and sometimes I feel similarly in certain movies, and especially when you're younger and you kind of feel the need to have explanation in a movie. I get it, and I'm going over this point too much, but the point I want to make is I was okay with all of the questions not being answered, with all the little details and specific nitpicky things. I actually thought it was pretty good of them to not be very upfront and have a lot of exploitation about this happened because of this and this happened because of this. Great for that. And I want to say another thing I liked a lot was the introduction and kind of not arc, but just the conclusion of the new character who showed up on the ship. I believe it's the one who ended up in the wall, and she came out knowing some of the names of the crew and having other details about them. That's great stuff. That's the kind of thing that ignites a mystery for the viewer, where it's like, whoa, so we have this space station crew people with all these different people from different countries, and this new lady who knows some of them, but then has a different idea about who some of them are, or how some of them act or have acted in the past. And it's cool. It's like, what's going to happen here? I know it's going to have to matter. And I said almost immediately, well, okay, I don't want to give myself that much credit, but I said pretty quickly that she's probably going to cause some kind of trouble, because it just seemed too... It was just the right amount of ominous tone about her, where she knew things, but didn't know things, and maybe had secret motivation, or was lying about her motivation. I thought that would have been pretty cool if by the end of the movie she had planned the entire time to really be a spy from a either separate country or separate planet or something to take over and, do things for her or her group. It could have been their own motive type of thing. So I liked that a lot. That was really cool. It was cool seeing the stuff back on the ground on Earth, too. There were some decent visuals, not necessarily specifically saying the very, very end, but the gentleman whose wife is on the spaceship, he was saving that girl. It was kind of quiet tonally. Because there's the sequences of him saving this girl, keeping her safe, trying to figure out what he can do for her, trying to figure out what he can do for himself and his own loved ones. But it was kind of like a very specific barrier between what was going on in space and what the viewer got to see for what was going on in Earth. And so with the tone, it wasn't a bad tone, but it was just interesting how it was there and that was there up in space, and trying to figure out the connections. And that's, I guess, what you want the viewer to do, is try to predict and figure things out. Putting puzzle pieces together based on the things they're getting, based on the clues they're seeing, and then eventually realizing, wow, that's the picture of everything that's going on, and appreciating it for that reason. So I like how they did those types of things. I wasn't really... I saw it a few days ago, and it's hard to remember all the details at this point, and especially with only having 10 minutes, I have no idea how much is left because the screen got blank, so some siren will go off at some point. But I really don't have big things that I'm thinking of where I said, that was just dumb. There's a couple cool scenes where, the guy with his arm that was in the cage, a lot of just visual things you don't get to see, things like that, things like the room that was filling up with water, where I think it was one of the women were in that room where it was getting filled up and she had no way out. There's some kind of crazy visuals there that you don't always see in either a space movie or even an Earth movie, a normal movie. So visually cool and just kind of exciting. It wasn't like it was boring, or there were scenes where I thought, well, okay, we get it, move along. But in terms, I just realized that one came to my head right now. The one scene where the guy who first got hurt, the guy who exploded into worms or something, that was really weird. And that's one of the earlier things in the movie that happens that's bizarre. So that's one where it was wow, that what a visual. That's striking. And at least I'm glad they did that one kind of early on in the movie, because it kind of showed the viewer that craziness is going to happen. This already happened. You don't even know what's going to happen for the rest of the movie. So good for them for setting a cool tone like that, and good for them for having the structure of expect some unexpected and watch these characters try to figure out what they're going to do about it. I guess some people might be annoyed that it's so similar to, what was that movie that came out sort of recently? I mean, recently can mean months ago or within 5 years ago. You know, it's hard to define recently in terms of movies these days. But the one where the woman's in space and George Clooney was there, is that the one called Interstellar? Is that the one called Gravity? I want to say Gravity, but that's a movie where there was a similar, so to speak, a similar plot point of, we need to get this person or these people out of here. We need to get her back to Earth, and a similar thing was happening with her characters in this new Cloverfield Paradox. I said it right that time. Cloverfield Paradox movie, where we need to figure out how to get them back to the Earth / even to their own dimension or something like that. It's just craziness. It's cool to see something like that happen, and my original point was going to be, I can see why some people would say, like, oh, another one of those get back to their Earth, get back to their home planet thing or home dimension. Fine, but I do think this was a unique enough movie to make that work, as well as I love the idea that it's a Cloverfield movie, and I think Jay said this on the Half in the Bag review, but it's awesome to think of I guess trilogy, you could refer to it as. It's awesome to think of a trilogy that has 3 movies that are so distinctly different, yet still are within the same universe / not even need to have the same tone, but have a connection that kind of helps drive the plot and or drive the viewer into a state of wonder. And in this case, by the end of the movie, you do realize that the viewer realizes that the Cloverfield monster we've been seeing since the first movie is on Earth, or, I mean, maybe there's more of them. We never get a lot of questions answered about those, and maybe those questions were answered in the second one, which I wouldn't know, so I apologize for that. But I mean, it's like, oh, there's the connection here and there, and they don't have to be super strong connections to make it so perfect. I will say this, if in Back to the Future 1, there were as few connections between that movie and Back to the Future 2 as there are in Cloverfield 1, 2, and 3, then that wouldn't work at all. Back to the Future couldn't work without those huge connections and reminders and throwbacks and references. But with Cloverfield, I like how they can do that type of thing. I like how they can have a monster and, a scene where something's happening outside in the world and there might be monsters. And then in the third movie, by the end of it, you realize that the Earth has been taken over by monster things. Maybe monster is the wrong word. I apologize if I should call them titans or like whatever. I'm not an expert on the movies. I just know I like watching the first one. I should watch the second one, absolutely. And I do enjoy watching the third one now just because of the cool connections it's had. And it's a decent movie that's pretty well acted by these various people from various countries. Oh, there's the siren. Almost perfect timing. Thanks for watching. I'm just a fan. And these were my 10 minutes for Cloverfield Paradox.